Australia has a reputation. It is a country that consumes its leaders. In the space of a single decade from 2007 to 2018, no prime minister served a full term in office. Rudd Gillard Abbott Turnbull. This is a shocking fact for a stable Western democracy. The revolving door at the top of Australian politics spun with breathtaking speed. Leaders were elected with great hope. They were then torn down, often not by the voters at an election, but by their own colleagues in late-night meetings. This period of intense political instability became known as the spill culture. It left the nation bewildered and its international partners puzzled. The constant churn created a sense of national whiplash. A voter could go to bed with one prime minister and wake up with another. The reasons given were often couched in the language of polls and electability. But the raw reality was a brutal power struggle fought behind closed doors. This was not a system functioning as designed. It felt more like a system breaking under pressure. The public grew cynical. They saw their leaders as disposable figures, pawns in a game played by a small political class. This erosion of trust is a heavy price for any democracy to pay. The constant threat of removal hangs over every leader. The urgency of this phenomenon cannot be overstated. The first major driver of leadership collapse is the factional system. Australia's major political parties are not monolithic entities. They are coalitions of competing internal groups, known as factions. Left-right command the loyalty of members of parliament. They are power blocks. A leader's survival depends on maintaining the support of a majority of these factions. When a key faction withdraws its support, a leader becomes fatally wounded. The party room, where all MPs meet, becomes a battleground. Factional bosses can make or break a prime minister with a series of phone calls. The second critical element is the relentless 24-hour media cycle. Modern news is a hungry beast. It craves conflict and drama. A minor policy misstep, a poor poll result, can be amplified into a full-blown crisis within hours. Television, news, online outlets, social media create an echo chamber. A narrative of a leader being weak or out of touch can take hold with incredible speed. The case of Kevin Rudd in 2010 is the classic example. Rudd was elected in a landslide in 2007, enjoying record-high approval ratings. He was immensely popular with the public. Yet within his own party, discontent was brewing. Colleagues found his leadership style to be chaotic and controlling. Key factional leaders felt shut out. As policy challenges mounted and his poll numbers began to soften, his rivals saw their chance. In a stunningly fast move, Julia Gillard, his deputy, challenged for the leadership. Rudd, seeing he had lost the support of the party room, did not even contest the vote. Australia's popular prime minister was gone overnight. Julia Gillard's prime ministership was then haunted by the manner of its birth. She was constantly labeled as an illegitimate leader who had knifed her predecessor. This narrative was relentlessly pushed by her political opponents and parts of the media. For 3 years, she governed under a cloud of instability. Kevin Rudd and his supporters worked tirelessly from within to undermine her. The internal division was crippling. Eventually, with an election looming and the party's polls in dire straits, the factions switched their allegiance once more. In 2013, Rudd challenged Gillard and won. Anthony Albanese came to the leadership of his party in the wake of a devastating election loss in 2019. The party was broken, divided, demoralized. The decade of spills had left deep scars. It was from this position of weakness that Albanese began the slow work of rebuilding. His first and most crucial strategy was to end the internal wars. He understood that a party at war with itself could never win the trust of the Australian people. He did not seek to crush the factions that had fought so bitterly. Instead, he sought to manage them. He brought people from all sides into his inner circle. This approach was about power sharing, not power hoarding. He gave key responsibilities to people who were not his traditional allies. This had a calming effect on the party room. Potential rivals were given important jobs, making them invested in the collective success of the team rather than plotting for individual gain. The Albanese method was at its core, an exercise in strategic patience. He understood the path back to power was not a sprint, but a marathon. After the 2019 election loss, there was a temptation to react immediately with bold new policies. Instead, Albanese initiated a lengthy review of the defeat. He listened to feedback at town halls and across the country. He allowed the party time to grieve and to properly diagnose its failings. The slow, deliberate process frustrated some, but it ensured the next steps were built on understanding, not panic. He let the political noise pass him by. Message control was another pillar. Albanese and his team kept a tight grip on public communications. They chose their battles carefully and avoided daily fights over trivial issues. The focus stayed on core themes: cost of living, secure jobs, a better future. When crises erupted, his response was measured, not frantic. He often waited to be fully briefed before facing cameras. The story of Australia's revolving door leadership is ultimately a story about systems. Rules, norms, pressures create the conditions for either stability or chaos. The high turnover of the 2010s was not just a result of flawed individuals. It was the product of a system where factional power, a hyper-adversarial media, and weak party protections aligned to make leaders disposable. The system incentivized short-term plotting over long-term governance. It rewarded those who could count numbers in a corridor more than those who could build a national consensus. This is the fundamental lesson from that turbulent period. Anthony Albanese did not fall because he understood this system intimately. He did not try to defy it with sheer force of will. Instead, he worked methodically to change the incentives within it. By reforming his party's rules, he made a spill mathematically harder. By managing the factions through inclusion and power sharing, he reduced their motivation to start a war. By controlling his message and projecting calm, he denied the media the drama it feeds on. He did not destroy the labyrinth of leadership. He simply learned how to navigate it. His survival was a masterclass in working the system from the inside. This raises a crucial question for the future of Australian democracy.